Chris Schubert with you. We got one more hour here this week. Producer Evan behind the glass taking your phone calls on a Take Friday, 480-864-1060. I'll dive back into some baseball here because the rest of baseball may be telling the Diamondbacks a story. And it's up to the Diamondbacks if they want to listen to that story. And I hope everybody who is in the camp of firing Torey Lovullo grabs themselves a snack, perhaps gets their lunch out, a drink, and they sit nice and close to their radio or their computer or their streaming device. I hope they're nice and close.
Was that a way of telling me I should be closer to the mic?
You and everybody else in your camp that wants to fire Torey Lovullo. I want everybody that is in that circle to listen closely. Because there are two teams in baseball already this season that have similar levels of expectations to the Arizona Diamondbacks that have made moves in an attempt to save their seasons. Let's start with a team that the Diamondbacks know very well, the Texas Rangers, a team that they faced in the World Series a couple of years ago. That Rangers team, to start the year, had a brutal offense. Scored only 3.23 runs per game through their first 35 games. 17-18 was their record. Hovering around 500, not scoring a ton of runs. What did they do to try to support their excellent pitching staff? I mean, Texas has potentially the best rotation in all of baseball. And they've just been great all year. So what did they do? They fired their hitting coach. Said, we need new voices. Need to change it up here. So they did that. Since then, 10-12 is their record, and they're averaging just 3.27 runs per game. So not a huge difference to their offense. Don't know how different their approach is. And their winning percentage, their record is actually worse. 10-12 in the 22 games following firing their hitting coach. But Chris, that's just a coach. That's not firing the manager. That's not making a change of the lead guy in the dugout, in the clubhouse. Let's talk about the Baltimore Orioles then. Let's talk about an Orioles team that was supposed to be a contender to win the American League East this year. Was supposed to finally break through and be on the same level as the Rangers, as the Yankees, as the Astros, as those top teams in the American League. And their pitching was a disaster. Their starting pitching is brutal, awful. They were 15-28, and they decided to fire Brandon Hyde. Since then, they're 4-8. So a team that didn't like their offense, they fired their hitting coach. It's done absolutely nothing. Another team struggling with their pitching, worrying about a message being lost, fired the manager. They're 4-8 in the 12 games since firing the manager. So for all of you out there that want to fire Torey Lovullo, you've got two teams in baseball. Two teams, because the Colorado Rockies firing Bud Black, that doesn't register on the same scale as compared to a team that has playoff aspirations. The Pirates making a managerial change, that's not on the same wavelength as what the Diamondbacks have expectations-wise. So here are two teams. Here are two examples of franchises that have those similar expectations, that view themselves in the light of a playoff team. And they've made those changes. They've fired hitting coaches. They've fired managers. And where has it gotten them? Nowhere. Don't misidentify the problem. Don't look at what is happening right now to the Arizona Diamondbacks and assume it is all on the manager. It's not the manager's fault that Kevin Ginkel has a 12 ERA. It's not the manager's fault that Ryan Thompson has an ERA north of 6. It's not the manager's fault that no matter who he calls for out of the bullpen when those gates swing open, it doesn't seem to matter. Jalen Beeks, one of the more trusted relievers at the start of the season, he gave it up the other night. None of that falls on the manager. Has the manager made some blunders? Yes. Has the manager had a hand in some of the games that ended up on the meltdown meter? Absolutely. Over the course of 162, no matter what team you are, no matter who you are as a manager, you're going to make some mistakes. You are going to cost your team a game here or there. That's going to happen. You fire a manager if the message is being lost. You fire a manager if the room is no longer responding to the message that is being sent. You fire a manager if you feel like this thing is on thin ice. And firing the manager is the only way that I'm going to galvanize this room, that I'm going to get these guys to snap back in to who they are as baseball players. And I just don't know if at the end of May, we are anywhere near that point right now. It doesn't feel like, to me, the message is being lost. Now, I'll tell you, Wednesday's game, losing the way that they did, having that hangover effect from the day before, looking like they just weren't into it, that is a warning sign. But that's the first warning sign that perhaps the room is being lost. With a day off, an opportunity to clear their heads, spend some time at home, spend the time with family, spend the time with friends, spend their time away from thinking about baseball. Let's see how they respond for a home series against Washington. Because, and this may shock some of you, but Washington may actually have a worse bullpen than the Arizona Diamondbacks. I know for many of us, it feels like the Diamondbacks have the worst bullpen in all of baseball. Washington's might actually be worse. Now, Washington's playing well as of late. They've won 8 of their last 11 ball games. Playing some really good baseball there in D.C. Young group that just is playing an energetic brand of baseball. Got a lot of young guys. They're chomping at the bit for opportunity. That's the team that you're welcoming into town. But let's see how you fare against a team like Washington that you should be able to beat. Win this series. Get to this bullpen that isn't very good. You respond in kind this weekend. See, Producer Evan, I use as a placeholder for everybody that wants to fire Torey Lovullo. I kind of beat you up for it because you're in front of me. I can speak to you about this, and you are the representation of those people. So sometimes I yell at you. I'm not really yelling at you. But for all of those people, and you're in that group that want him to be fired, if the team responds by sweeping the Nationals or winning the series against the Nationals, the message isn't being lost. The team is no longer not responding to his message. If they come out and respond this weekend and they play well and they win the series and or sweep the series, I don't think we have a message problem. We have an execution problem. Now,
what if they do? What if they get swept?
Okay, then I can start to wrap my head around the idea of maybe the message is being lost because you had a day off. You had a chance to clear your heads and you came back and you then had some more clunkers. That is a problem. Then you do potentially start to have a messaging issue. But if you sweep the Washington Nationals, I'm sorry, you don't have a messaging problem. You don't have a leadership problem. You have an execution problem, which is what I think this is right now. And so that's why I'm not willing to say he's on the hot seat. That's why I'm not willing to say that that's the right move for this team. You sent a message by sending down Kevin Ginkel. You sent a message. How does the team respond? If the team responds to that message by going out there, playing with their hair on fire, playing at 110%, and they sweep the Washington Nationals, then they still respond to this manager and this GM. And then you have to see it through, or at least see it through the month of June. June's going to be a really important month.
Very important.
We'll talk about this probably the beginning of next week because the calendar will officially flip. We'll break down the schedule. June is the month, man. June is the month where this team has to get it right.
It's do or die in June.
Or is we play this game where is this upcoming series the most important series? Is June the most important month of the season for the Arizona Diamondbacks? Yes. This upcoming month is going to be do or die. Buy or sell. What you do in June is going to dictate who you are in July. Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Are you somewhere in the middle? June is going to give us that answer. How about you go into June, starting tonight? You start the turn of the calendar on a good note. Because to me, if you go out there and you play well and you respond and there's high energy and the offense is doing wonders and the bullpen's able to hold down a couple of leads, that tells me that there's still some juice in there, that room still has some fire that Torey Lovullo is tapping into. If they continue to look like they did, take a snapshot of Wednesday's game. Take a snapshot of errors by Jordan Lawler, a lifeless effort offensively. Take that mental snapshot of the way that game felt for all of us. If you see more efforts like that stack up on top of each other, then we have a problem. That's when we start having issues. That's when you have to wonder, okay, do they need a new voice? Do they need somebody that's going to say things a little differently, or do they need that wake-up call? I just don't know if we're there yet. And I'm always hesitant to firing a manager, especially in this case, because if you get this wrong, I worry about the consequences of it. If this season goes down the tubes, I think we are in for a really brutal winter. A winter of a lot of players not being here anymore and this team looking a lot different. And that does worry me a little bit, considering the fun the last 2 years have been in terms of expectations and playing meaningful baseball and making a run to the World Series and being in it all season last year and then going out and spending money on Corbin Burns. You're going to lose a lot of that if you have another year where you don't make the playoffs. So that's my reasoning for being against firing Torey, because if you get it wrong and it spirals even further, boy, is this winter going to be rough. So I know he's been here for, 9 years now? I know, I get it, I understand. I'm just very hesitant to making that type of move until you actually know that the message is being lost. And I just don't think we're seeing that yet on a regular enough basis. We saw it on Wednesday. Be concerned about what you saw on Wednesday. Is it a blip or is it a trend? Blip or trend? The answer to that question, I think, is to the answer as to what this team is going to be moving forward.